Hello and welcome to Tech Week in Review with Adam and Eve. This past week, June 30th to July 6th, it was really quite something, a powerful demonstration of how technology isn't just evolving, it's actively reshaping, well, everything. Our daily lives, healthcare, global politics, even sports.
Indeed. It's fascinating. We saw these breakthroughs, things that could genuinely revolutionize medical diagnosis, change how sports are played. But then on the flip side, stark reminders of AI's darker potential. Cyber attacks, the constant fight for digital privacy.
Right.
And what really stands out, I think, is how these different threads, they seem separate, but they actually converge. They reveal these deeper trends about AI's influence everywhere and that shifting relationship between tech, society, and, frankly, global power.
Exactly. And that's our goal today, right? To go beyond just the headlines.
Yeah.
You've shared your sources, and we're here to sort of unpack them, pull out the key insights, give you that shortcut to being really informed. We'll look at the good, the bad, the maybe just neutral aspects, all based on the facts. And hopefully we'll keep it engaging, maybe even a little witty along the way.
Hopefully.
So grab your coffee or whatever you're drinking, because we're about to dig into the past 7 days in tech. Okay, let's kick things off with something that could really change your day-to-day workflow. Google. They just rolled out these customizable AI chatbots. They're calling them GEMs.
Gems, yeah.
And they're putting them directly into workspace apps. Docs, Drive, Gmail, Sheets, the whole suite. This feels like more than just, a button.
Oh, absolutely. It signals a big move towards truly personalized AI help. These aren't just generic bots like we've seen before. You can actually tailor a gem for a specific job. Like maybe you need a copywriting gem that gets your exact tone right, or a sales gem that pulls in company data for client chats.
So really specific roles.
Exactly. It's about moving past that one-size-fits-all approach, making the AI feel less like a tool you fight with and more like a dedicated assistant that, gets you.
And they can access your workspace files and folders, too, seamlessly. That sounds like a big deal for working together, cutting down on typing the same prompts over and over.
That's the promise. Enhanced collaboration, less repetition. Google started the rollout July 2nd, apparently.
Right.
And they expect it to hit users on the Workspace standard plan or higher pretty soon, within weeks. It really suggests Google is hearing that demand for AI that, fits into how we already work, not disrupts it.
Makes sense. Okay, so from our work tools, let's switch gears to our doctors. Microsoft just unveiled an AI system they're calling medical superintelligence.
Right.
And the headline is, it actually did better than human doctors diagnosing complex cases.
Yeah.
This sounds pretty huge.
It is quite the breakthrough. So this AI system, it's powered by OpenAI's latest O3 model. That's a new version of their foundational AI. And it managed to solve more than 8 out of 10 really tough case studies. These were interactive ones from the New England Journal of Medicine.
Wow. 8 out of 10. And doctors.
Well, practicing doctors under the exact same conditions, no outside help, they solved about 2 out of 10.
2?
Yeah.
That's a significant difference.
It is. And the system works step by step, much like a real doctor would, asking specific questions, ordering the right tests, that sort of thing.
And Microsoft is even saying the AI is more efficient with tests, which could mean lower healthcare costs down the line.
That's part of their claim, yes. Potential cost reduction. But, and this is really crucial, they're stressing this point, Microsoft is adamant this AI is meant to support doctors, not replace them.
Right, because diagnosis is only one part of it.
Exactly. Doctors do so much more. Managing uncertainty, building that patient relationship, empathy. AI just can't replicate that. Not yet, anyway. But still, as a diagnostic tool, a massive leap forward, even if it's not quite ready for everyday clinic use.
Okay. Very interesting. Speaking of surprising places for AI, Wimbledon.
Yes.
An event just steeped in tradition, right? 147 years. And they just made this historic change, swapping out human line judges for an AI system to call the shots.
Yeah.
That feels like a real clash of worlds.
It really does. It highlights how technology is bumping up against even the most established traditions. Sony's Hawkeye system, I think it uses up to 18 cameras.
Okay, yeah.
All around the court, tracking the ball's exact spot. They claim it can spot an out ball in 1/10 of a second, and the accuracy within 3 millimeters.
3 millimeters, that's incredibly precise.
It promises that accuracy, faster decisions, but it's definitely stirred things up. Players like Fognini, Alcaraz, they've had mixed reactions.
Okay.
And some fans, they missed the drama, the challenges, the human element. Apparently, some even think the electronic voices sound a bit hesitant.
Hesitant? That's funny, like the AI isn't quite sure.
Maybe. Or maybe it's just how it sounds. But it shows that part of the experience, even the officiating, is tied to that human interaction for some people.
So what's the takeaway here? It's basically the digital transformation of sports officiating hitting even the most traditional events, blending machine precision with, well, less human judgment now, I guess.
Pretty much. And it's not just Wimbledon, is it? Hawkeye's already at the US Open, the Australian Open, plus other sports, volleyball, football, rugby. They all use similar tech.
So it's really a sign of where things are headed,
Right.
efficiency and accuracy through tech, impacting all competitive sports.
Okay, let's step back for a moment. Look at the bigger picture. The European Commission, they're making a big play for the future with their first ever quantum strategy. Quantum computing. Still sounds like sci-fi sometimes.
It does, but the implications are very real.
Yeah.
Connecting this to the global landscape, the EU is trying to position itself as a leader in quantum tech. They're competing hard with the US and China, obviously.
And quantum machines, they process things differently, right? Many calculations at once. Exactly. That allows them to tackle problems that are just beyond the reach of today's computers. And we're already seeing applications emerge, things like quantum-powered MRI scanners for detecting diseases earlier, and even a quantum communication network designed to be super secure to protect data from future cyber attacks that could break current encryption.
Interesting. But I heard Europe, despite having lots of startups, has lagged a bit in actually, selling these things.
Yeah.
Commercializing.
That's been the challenge. They host about a third of the world's quantum startups, lead in scientific papers, but turning that into market success has been slower. So this new EU strategy is all about pulling together those fragmented national efforts, boosting investment, expanding infrastructure, like building quantum chip factories.
Makes sense. They need to scale up.
Right. The executive vice president, Henna Virkunen, she stressed the urgency, said, "It is crucial to act now. Our aim is to propose solutions for scaling up and to lead." They're even talking about a quantum act in 2026 for legal support.
A quantum act. Okay. So a serious push from the EU there. All right. Now let's look at the double-edged sword of AI, the concerning side. TikTok is apparently battling a flood of racist deepfake AI videos.
Yes, this is deeply troubling.
And many seem to be generated by Google's new VO3 video tool.
That's what reports suggest. And it throws up this huge question, doesn't it? How do you effectively moderate AI-generated hate speech when these tools can just churn out massive amounts of harmful stuff so quickly?
Yeah, the scale is the problem.
Absolutely. The videos found, they depict awful stereotypes, push anti-Semitic ideas, xenophobic content, sometimes even referencing things like the Holocaust. It seems like they're deliberately designed to provoke outrage, to get clicks, to spread hate, using the platform's own algorithm against itself.
So what's TikTok doing?
Well, they say they have strict policies against hate speech and they're removing accounts. But, this isn't just a TikTok problem. YouTube, Instagram, they're all facing similar issues.
It's a platform-wide challenge.
Exactly. Experts are warning that AI just makes content moderation exponentially harder. It really underlines the need for better detection tools and, frankly, for users like you and me to be vigilant and report this stuff when we see it. It's a constant battle.
A grim reminder of the misuse potential. And it gets even more concerning when we talk national security. There was a U.S. Justice Department investigation revealed North Koreans using complex schemes, including deepfake AI, to get remote IT jobs at over 100 U.S. companies.
The sophistication here is, well, it's alarming. They apparently stole the identities of more than 80 Americans.
80.
And used U.S.-based helpers, facilitators, to create this illusion that the workers were actually in the U.S. They even had laptop farms.
Laptop farms? What's that?
Basically, physical locations in the U.S. with laptops connected, making it look like the remote work was coming from within the country, masking the true origin in North Korea.
Wow. All to get access.
To get access to sensitive corporate data, things like military technology information, virtual currency data, it allowed North Korea to basically infiltrate these companies. It's cyber espionage on a large scale.
And the feds raided places.
They did. Raids across 21 locations, 14 states, just between Juneteenth and 17, seized 137 laptops.
And get this, part one of the unnamed facilitators, the helpers in the U.S., is reportedly an active-duty U.S. military member with secret clearance.
That's the really shocking detail, isn't it? It just highlights this growing threat of cyber-enabled economic espionage. Hostile states using deep fakes, complex identity theft to get inside U.S. businesses.
It really screams for companies to tighten up their identity checks and cybersecurity, doesn't it?
Urgently. Yeah.
Okay, shifting to privacy concerns, which often go hand in hand with AI. Meta. They're making a pretty bold move, asking users for permission to access their private camera roll
Your entire camera roll.
to enhance its AI capabilities. If you use Facebook Stories, you might get this pop-up asking to opt into cloud processing. What exactly does that mean?
It means, if you agree, Meta can continuously upload photos from your phone's camera roll to their servers.
Continuously.
Continuously. They'll analyze facial details, locations, other metadata, ostensibly to suggest AI-generated content back to you, like photo collages or retouched images.
But they promise not to use it for ads or training models.
They say during this test phase, it won't be used for ad targeting or improving the main AI models. But that test phase caveat is important. And the whole idea of giving continuous access to your private photos, it sparked a pretty significant backlash online.
I can imagine. It raises that fundamental question, right? Where's the line between cool features and just too much access? Convenience versus privacy.
That's the crux of it. Meta's likely doing this to try and win back younger users. Facebook's teen audience has dropped significantly, nearly 40% between 2014 and 2022.
So they're hoping automatic collages will bring them back.
Perhaps. But users have to weigh that potential fun against handing over ongoing access to their most personal visual data. It definitely signals deeper AI integration in social media, but it really ramps up those privacy anxieties. Makes you think twice about what you click agree on.
Definitely. All right, let's pivot to policy now. How is all this AI going to be governed? Big news from the U.S. Senate. They just overwhelmingly rejected a proposal, 99-1.
99-1. That's remarkable bipartisanship these days.
It really is. And what they rejected was an idea to block states from regulating AI companies for a whole decade.
Yeah, it was sort of buried in President Trump's tax bill proposal. It would have essentially said, if a state wants federal AI funding, they have to stop enforcing any of their own AI rules or restrictions. A regulatory free pass for 10 years.
And the Senate said no. Emphatically.
Overwhelmingly no. What's fascinating is that strong cross-party opposition. It signals a really clear demand for local control, for accountability, especially, when even the CEOs of these AI companies are admitting they can't fully control their own systems yet.
Right. Senator Ed Markey called it dangerous, didn't he? Said it put big tech profits over protecting people.
He did. Now, the supporters of the original idea, they warned that having lots of different state laws could slow down U.S. AI innovation, make it harder to compete with China. That's the counter-argument.
But the Senate wasn't buying it.
Clearly not. The vote favors the need for oversight, for guardrails. As AI gets more powerful, it's a definite pushback against trying to centralize all the AI rules at the federal level, or rather, prevent rules altogether for a while. Shows policymakers are listening to public concerns about accountability.
And across the Atlantic, the EU is also wrestling with AI regulation. The European Commission is apparently thinking about giving companies a grace period after they sign the voluntary AI Code of Practice.
Right. This is about balancing speed with practicality. They have the big EU AI Act officially taking effect very soon, August 2nd.
Okay.
But there's also this voluntary code of practice for general-purpose AI models, things like ChatGPT. The final version of that code got delayed, maybe coming July 10th now.
So very close to the main act starting.
Exactly. And companies, including Google, have apparently asked for more time. They're saying the timing is super tight, leaving little room to actually adjust and comply with the code's requirements.
Makes sense. These things take time to implement.
They do. And the draft code itself has faced some pushback, too. Tech giants, copyright holders, they're worried it might clash with existing EU copyright laws. So, offering a grace period. It seems like an acknowledgement of these challenges, trying to smooth the transition while still keeping the regulatory goals on track. It shows that ongoing back and forth, that fine-tuning between regulators and the industry.
A balancing act, for sure. Okay, let's shift to the tech business world itself. Some significant news from Microsoft. They confirmed a big round of job cuts.
Yeah, their largest workforce reduction since 2023. Nearly 9,000 jobs. That's about 4% of their global workforce.
9,000 people. That's a lot.
It is, and it really reflects how AI and these broader market shifts are impacting tech jobs. Microsoft framed it as organizational and workforce changes, basically streamlining management, trying to be more agile, and they explicitly mentioned using new technologies, implying AI as part of that streamlining.
And the gaming division, Xbox, was hit particularly hard.
Apparently so. Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, confirmed the layoffs there. And they also canceled some high-profile game projects that had been in development, like Everwild and Perfect Dark. That's a tough blow for gamers anticipating those titles.
Wow, so restructuring even hitting major projects.
It seems so, but here's the interesting contrast. Despite these major layoffs, Microsoft's actually doing really well financially. They reported an 18% increase in quarterly profit.
18% increase?
Yep, $25.8 billion. Driven mainly by their cloud and AI businesses booming. Satya Nadella, the CEO, even said earlier this year that AI is generating something like 20–30% of Microsoft's code now.
So the AI boon is profitable, but it's also leading to job cuts as they restructure. That's quite the tension.
It's a stark reminder of that tension between efficiency gains from tech, innovation investment, and the impact on the workforce. AI is definitely reshaping needs and roles.
And stinging the gaming world, another kind of shutdown. BioWare and EA's multiplayer game, Anthem, is officially closing down in 2026.
Anthem. Yeah, that's been coming for a while, hasn't it? January 12th, 2026 is the date. End of the road after almost 7 years, but really years of struggles.
It launched with a lot of hype, didn't it? But then...
It did. Launched February 2019. Reviews were very mixed. It just didn't meet sales expectations. BioWare even announced a huge overhaul like a year later called Anthem NXT.
Right, I remember that. To fix it.
Yeah, but then they stopped development on that overhaul back in February 2021. So the writing's been on the wall.
So what's the lesson here?
Well, it's a really poignant reminder of how tough the live service game market is. You know, these games that need constant updates and player engagement. If you don't launch strong and keep delivering significant new content, it's incredibly hard to sustain them long term. Anthem is kind of a case study in those challenges.
So players have until early next year.
That's right. They can still play until January. But it's already gone from digital stores, and it's leaving the EA Play subscription service on August 15th. Allows EA to shift resources, focus on newer games and franchises, just the business reality of game life cycles.
End of an era for those who stuck with it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of big tech adapting, Apple. According to Bloomberg, they're exploring something really surprising for them, integrating rival AI models like ChatGPT and Anthropic's Claude into their cloud services.
This is potentially huge. If true, it would be a monumental reversal, as Bloomberg put it. Apple is usually so focused on internal development, keeping everything tightly within their own ecosystem.
Exactly. So why now?
Well, their big Siri overhaul, the one meant to make it truly smart, it keeps getting delayed. Originally planned for 2025, now may be pushed back to 2027.
2027, wow.
Yeah, and they've even faced lawsuits claiming they overstated Siri's current AI abilities. So this sounds like a pragmatic move, maybe driven by the new Siri project lead, Mike Rockwell. It suggests there's real urgency inside Apple to catch up with OpenAI and Google in this AI race.
They feel like they're falling behind.
It certainly looks that way. The pressure is immense. They might feel they have to consider using outside tech to keep pace, even if it goes against their usual instincts.
And they might even buy Perplexity, that AI startup.
That's another report, yeah. Considering acquiring them for their tech and talent. Apple's being cautious, of course, saying they're committed to quality, but it all points to how incredibly competitive and resource-hungry this AI development space is. Even Apple might need to collaborate more or acquire more to innovate quickly while still trying to, maintain control over the user experience.
A real balancing act for them. And on the topic of Perplexity, the market for advanced AI is definitely stratifying. Perplexity AI just launched a new premium tier, Perplexity Max, priced at $200 a month.
$200 a month. Okay, so who is this actually for?
That's the question, isn't it? What does it tell us about where the AI market is heading? Perplexity Max promises users better AI processing, faster answers, more model capacity, priority access when things get busy.
So clearly not for the casual user. This is aimed squarely at power users, right? Businesses, developers, people who need really robust, real-time AI for complex stuff. Research, problem solving, maybe sophisticated customer support.
Exactly. It puts Perplexity firmly at the premium end of the market. They're justifying that high price with top-tier performance and exclusive features.
And industry watchers see this as part of a broader trend, don't they? Customizable AI service tiers, different levels of power and features, balancing cost and capability.
Yeah. Seems like as AI gets more common, providers need ways to serve both the everyday person just trying things out and the professionals who really push the limits. All right, let's shift to geopolitics intersecting with tech. President Trump recently hinted he's found a potential buyer for TikTok's U.S. operations.
Ah, the TikTok saga continues.
He mentioned a group of very wealthy people, Didn't name names, of course.
Of course not. But this whole situation really highlights the tangle, doesn't it? National security worries versus economic interests versus digital innovation versus free speech. It's all in there.
And the deadline is looming, right? Mid-September.
Mid-September for TikTok's owner, ByteDance, to sell the U.S. part of the business or face a ban. That was under the law President Biden signed back in 2023. Although the law does allow for a 90-day extension if a deal seems close.
And Trump also mentioned the deal would need approval from China's President Xi Jinping. Adds another layer.
A very significant layer of international diplomacy, yes, makes it even more complex. The estimated value for TikTok US is somewhere between, what, $20 and $50 billion?
So, not small change. Needs serious investors.
Definitely requires deep pockets. So Trump teased more details in about 2 weeks. We'll see. But the stakes are incredibly high for one of the world's most popular apps, especially with younger users. It really shows how global tech companies are caught in these rising geopolitical tensions.
And speaking of President Trump, he also reignited his feud with Elon Musk this week. This time over the Senate's recent spending bill, which Trump signed on July 4th.
Yes, quite the public spat. Musk called the spending proposal the insane spending bill. He's clearly frustrated about the potential impact on the U.S. national debt.
Worried it could jeopardize future ambitions, like Mars.
That's what he implies. He warned it could undermine America's future, including space exploration, and Trump's response was, well, personal attacks.
Yeah, suggesting Musk might lose federal subsidies. SpaceX gets a lot of government money, doesn't it?
Over $22 billion in federal funding from NASA and the Defense Department. So threatening those subsidies is a serious lever to pull. Trump even joked about deporting him.
Wow. And Musk's reaction?
He tweeted it was so tempting to escalate, but seemed to hold back a bit. Still, he did warn that if this kind of spending continues, he might form a new political party, an alternative to the current two-party system.
A new political party? That's ambitious.
Very. But this whole back and forth, it really highlights this broader debate, doesn't it? Fiscal responsibility versus government investment in innovation versus private industry's role, and how it all ties into America's strategic goals in tech and space.
Now, sticking with geopolitics and security, cyberattacks. The International Criminal Court, the ICC, got hit during the recent NATO summit.
Yeah, described as a sophisticated cyber attack. And the timing during the NATO summit is certainly suggestive.
It raises serious questions, doesn't it, about how vulnerable these major international institutions are, especially the ICC, given the sensitive stuff they handle.
Extremely sensitive. They're investigating alleged Russian war crimes in Ukraine. They've issued an arrest warrant for President Putin. They're also looking into Israel's actions against Hamas. High-profile, high-stakes investigations.
And this isn't the first time they've been attacked.
No, back in 2023, they had another significant cyber attack, apparently significant enough that their main headquarters still doesn't have fully restored Wi-Fi because of it.
Still? Wow. That's concerning.
It is. And adding to the pressure, you had President Trump imposing sanctions on the ICC chief prosecutor earlier this year. So they're under pressure from multiple directions.
Did the attackers get anything this time? Any sensitive data?
The court says the breach is contained now and they're doing a full analysis, but they haven't said yet whether confidential data was compromised. This just hammers home how critical cybersecurity is for protecting the ICC's work, its integrity, and all the sensitive data involved in international justice. Really underscores the need for stronger defenses and international cooperation against these kinds of threats.
And in a related, maybe more proactive move against cyber threats, the U.S. Treasury Department just put sanctions on a Russian web hosting company.
The Sega Group, yes, accused of basically enabling cyber criminals.
Oh, so what were they doing?
The Treasury says IESA provided bulletproof hosting, meaning they knowingly hosted clients involved in illegal stuff, malware distribution, ransomware attacks, and shielded them from takedowns.
So providing a safe haven for hackers.
Essentially, yes. They're accused of hosting hackers spreading password-stealing malware like Medusa and Luma, also linked to Bianli and ransomware gangs, and providing infrastructure for a Russian darknet market called Blacksprut.
Okay, so they were facilitating a lot of bad activity.
Allegedly, yes. So the sanctions aim to cut IESA off from the U.S. financial system, block any U.S. transactions with them, and 4 executives behind the company face personal sanctions too.
Will it work? Cut them off?
Well, Chainalysis, the crypto analytics firm, pointed out that IESA had already started accepting cryptocurrency payments, likely anticipating something like this, so they might have ways around traditional financial blocks.
Always adapting.
Always adapting. But this action shows a shift in strategy, right? U.S. authorities are increasingly targeting the infrastructure that supports cybercrime, the hosting providers, the marketplaces. Not just chasing individual hackers after the fact, trying to disrupt the supply chain.
Makes sense. Go after the foundation. Okay, finally this week, let's end on a story that feels like a win for digital privacy. A California jury ruled Google has to pay Android users there $314.6 million.
Yeah, a significant ruling. This was for collecting user data without permission while their phones were just sitting idle.
Idle data collection. How did that work?
So the class action lawsuit, filed way back in 2019, argued that Google was collecting info from users' phones even when they weren't actively using them, and doing it without proper consent. The key argument was that this caused mandatory and unavoidable burdens because it used up cellular data without the user knowing or agreeing.
So it cost people money and data charges they didn't consent to.
That was the core claim the jury agreed with. They found Google liable for doing that. Now Google says they're going to appeal.
What's their argument?
They say the verdict misunderstands services that are actually critical for the phone's security, performance, reliability, things running in the background. And they maintain users did consent through the terms of service and privacy policies that everyone clicks agree on.
The fine print defense.
Pretty much. It boils down to that fundamental disagreement over what consent really means when you're dealing with complex digital services and lengthy legal documents.
And this case only involved Californians, about 14 million of them.
That's right. The specific verdict is for California users. But it definitely sends a signal that courts might be getting more willing to hold tech giants accountable for data collection practices that users feel aren't transparent or authorized.
Raises big questions about how companies handle our data and what meaningful consent looks like.
Absolutely. And there's actually a related federal lawsuit covering Android users in the other 49 states. That's set for trial in April 2026. So this legal battle could potentially go nationwide and have a much broader impact on future regulations and how companies have to protect user privacy. Definitely one to watch.
For sure. And that just about wraps up our Tech Week in Review with Adam and Eve for June 30th through July 6th. Wow, what a week. We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have.
From AI changing healthcare and even Wimbledon, to these ongoing battles over privacy, national security, and honestly, the future of how we work and interact.
It truly highlights how fast this landscape is shifting, doesn't it? And how deeply technology is just woven into everything, sometimes in ways we don't even see immediately, which I think prompts a really important question for you, our listener. As technology gets ever more tangled up with our daily lives, our routines, even our most private data, how do you personally see your interaction with AI changing in, say, the next 5 years? What new challenges or maybe new opportunities do you think that will bring into your own life?
That's a great question to ponder. As you think about everything we discussed today, these rapid shifts in AI power, how our data is handled, the global dynamics, consider how it might impact your own digital footprint, maybe even your career path in the years ahead. There's always more to learn, always more to discuss. We hope this look back at the week has given you plenty to chew on. Until next time.
Tech Week in Review is hosted by Adam Carter and Eve Harrison. Music by Federico Luyo, Jamie Wright, and Alex Grohl. Sound mixing and editing by Nigel Dixon-File. Tech Week in Review is produced by CTF Initiative in conjunction with TechFyle. If you are interested in more news, reviews, and articles, visit techfile.com and follow us on social media. If you like the podcast, please subscribe. Thanks for your support. Keep following TF and TWR for the latest in tech changing your world.